Hello, welcome to the channel Why Stories. Enjoy watching.
Your mother is an uneducated fool. At least mine graduated from university, her husband said at the dinner table in front of her mother. Her mother-in-law pretended not to hear, but the next morning, the son-in-law received a letter from a notary. The smell of roasted chicken filled the small kitchen. Amanda glanced at the clock, 5:43 p.m. Her mother was supposed to arrive in 17 minutes, unless she decided to show up early, which often happened. Andres passed briefly through the doorway, lingering his gaze on his wife longer than usual. Amanda braced herself for the usual remark. "Why not duck?" He smiled, but there was a trace of irritation in his voice. "Your mom just loves to go on about how they used to eat duck on holidays as kids." "Because chicken is cheaper," Amanda tried to joke, but it came out forced. "Ah, of course, the working class must economize," Andres snorted, opening the fridge. "Where's the wine?" "I asked for semi-sweet white." "It's already in the living room, chilling." They had been married for 3 years, having met by chance in a coffee line. Tall, fit, and armed with the trademark smile of a sales manager, Andres had a remarkable ability to charm people within the first 10 minutes. Amanda fell for it, like many before her. Back then, she worked in accounting at a small logistics firm and dreamed of great love. Raised in an ordinary family, her father passed away young, and her mother worked at a textile factory to raise her. Amanda saw Andres as a ticket to another life. She met his mother, Clara, almost immediately after they started dating. He brought her to a spacious apartment in a colonial-era building, filled with books and paintings. Clara, the head of a university department, wore chunky necklaces and, on their first meeting, remarked, "Your bagged tea is awful, darling." "That's not tea, that's trash." It took Amanda nearly a year to introduce Andres to her own mother. Beatrice lived in a small apartment in a working-class neighborhood on the outskirts. Andres arrived as though he had been invited to a zoo to observe a rare and not very pleasant species. "You said your mom was a factory worker," he whispered when Beatrice went to the kitchen, "but you didn't mention her house looks like a museum from the last century." Amanda was about to respond, but her mother returned with a tray full of homemade pastries, and the conversation shifted to safer ground. That meeting went relatively smoothly. They didn't meet often anyway. Andres always found a reason to avoid his mother-in-law. When Beatrice agreed to come for dinner, Amanda was surprised. Her mother rarely visited their rented city center apartment, preferring Amanda to come to her. "There's more space, no need to feed guests, and why waste money," she'd say. "Maybe I should invite you to mine, those restaurants of yours would bankrupt me." But this time, she agreed, and Amanda secretly rejoiced. After the news about the inheritance, she wanted her mom and husband to grow closer. Soon they would have their own home, a real one, not this expensive rental that ate up a third of their budget. The doorbell rang at exactly 6 p.m., as if Beatrice had been standing by the door checking the time. Such punctuality was her trademark. "Amanda," she hugged her daughter, the familiar scent of memento de gardenia surrounding her. "How are you? What a beautiful new blouse." "Come in, Mom," Amanda smiled, letting her in. Beatrice handed her a bag with a store-bought cake. "For tea." "I remember Andres has a sweet tooth." Andres appeared from the living room with his professional smile, the one Amanda saw when he dealt with important clients. "Beatrice, good evening. How was the trip?" "Fine, Andresito. The subway is nearby, very convenient," she smiled back. Amanda felt like they might finally be finding common ground. The first half hour of dinner went by in relaxed small talk. Beatrice shared news about a neighbor whose son got a good job. Amanda talked about work, and Andres commented on a new project. "Still working with foreigners, Andres?" Beatrice asked, serving herself salad. "Must know a bunch of languages." "Only English," he grimaced slightly, "but that's enough." "That's smart," Beatrice nodded. "Can't get by without languages nowadays. Even at our factory, management only hires with diplomas, not that it helps. Our chief engineer, Gonzalez, has 3 degrees, and the equipment is still from the 80s. Andres took a large gulp of wine and sighed suddenly. Amanda tensed. She recognized that expression. Young people all want to go to university nowadays, Beatrice continued, unaware of the mood shift. No one wants to work with their hands anymore. Used to be a competition to get into technical schools. Now everyone's a lawyer or economist. So who's going to do the manual work? Beatrice, Andres placed his glass on the table a bit too firmly. Don't you think it's natural for people to seek growth, intellectual labor? Of course, Andresito, Beatrice smiled. I just mean if everyone's in an office, who will run the machines? Robots, Andres snapped. In developed countries, everything's automated. We're behind. Amanda saw the muscles tense in his jaw. This argument wasn't going anywhere good. Can we change the topic? She offered. Mom, try the chicken. I used a new recipe. But Andres was already on a roll. This is the problem with our society, clinging to the past. All this nostalgia. Do you know how few technical school graduates can read a blueprint? Education has collapsed. Higher education. Andres, Amanda gently placed a hand on his arm, but he shook it off. No, let Beatrice hear this, he raised his voice. My mother dedicated 30 years to education, raised a whole generation of professionals. My parents always studied, improved themselves. What if factory families contributed to this country? Beatrice stopped chewing, staring at her son-in-law with an unreadable expression. Amanda felt the cold seep into her chest. Not everyone can be a professor, Beatrice said calmly. Someone has to feed the country. Feed? Andres scoffed. Your factory has been unprofitable since the last century. The country is fed by oil workers, programmers, and IT specialists, not. A phone buzz interrupted him. Andres glanced at the screen and muted it with irritation. My mother again with her lectures, he muttered, then turned to Beatrice as if struck by a sudden idea. Tell me, have you read even one real book this year? Not a romance novel, a real book. Amanda stood up, sensing she had to step in. Andres, stop it. Mom, don't pay attention, he's just tired. No, I'm genuinely curious, Andres pressed on. What are your cultural interests, Beatrice? Besides watching soap operas and making dulce de leche? The last words dripped with contempt. Beatrice looked at him for a long moment, then gently dabbed her lips with a napkin. You see, Andres, her voice was calm, when you're raising a child alone and working double shifts so that child lacks nothing, you don't have much time for opera and art galleries. Oh, I'm not talking about opera, Andres shook his head. I mean the basics. Andres, Amanda raised her voice, but he didn't seem to hear her. My mother would go insane from this level of ignorance. She's a PhD, a professor. And yours? He trailed off, but Amanda saw her mother pale. Enough, she said quietly. No, not enough, Andres suddenly slammed his palm on the table. Listen to me, Amanda. How long are we going to pretend everything's fine? Your mother is an uneducated fool. Mine at least graduated from university. But no, you drag her here, force me to listen to this primitive nonsense. The silence that followed was deafening. Amanda felt her fingers go numb with anger. Her vision blurred, rage clouded everything. She couldn't believe Andres had said that, at their table, looking straight into the eyes of the woman who had never spoken a bad word about him. Beatrice didn't flinch, she simply gripped her fork tighter and, to Amanda's surprise, calmly resumed eating as if nothing had happened. The chicken is delicious, sweetie, she said a few moments later without looking at her son-in-law. You've always been a great cook. The rest of dinner passed in a heavy, tomb-like silence. Andres buried himself in his phone, Amanda sat holding back tears, and Beatrice finished her plate, nodding occasionally to her own thoughts. At the end, she neatly placed her utensils on her plate, dabbed her mouth with a napkin, and smiled at Amanda. Thank you for a lovely dinner, Amanda. It was delicious, she turned to Andres. Goodbye, Andres. Have a pleasant evening. Without waiting for a response, she stood up. "Mom, wait, I'll walk you out." Amanda jumped up. "No need, darling," Beatrice patted her hand. "I'll manage. You better wash up. I know how Andres dislikes mess." She took her bag, put on her coat, and left, carefully closing the door behind her. Amanda stared at the closed door, stunned that her mother had just left without a word. "What the hell was that?" she asked, turning to her husband. "What?" Andres shrugged. "I told the truth. Enough pretending there's no chasm between our families. I'm tired of hearing about factory whistles and how sausage used to taste better." Amanda shook her head. "You insulted my mother," to her face. "She insulted me first." Andres got up from the table. "With her backward opinions on education. Let her learn how to speak properly first." He walked past Amanda into the bedroom and slammed the door. She stood in the middle of the kitchen, gripped by a cold, chilling feeling, as if, for the first time, she truly saw the man she'd spent 3 years with. And he was a stranger. Her eyes fell on her mother's plate, perfectly clean, as if Beatrice hadn't wanted to leave Amanda any extra work. Who would have thought an ordinary family dinner could turn into this? She didn't know what to do now with the information about the inheritance. Should she tell Andres? Did he deserve such a gift after last night? And how would her mother react once she cooled off? Amanda began mechanically clearing the table, feeling a growing anxiety within her. She didn't yet realize that this dinner would become a turning point in the life of the entire family, but she already sensed that something had changed irreversibly, like a tiny crack in a porcelain cup, about to splinter in all directions, turning a whole object into worthless shards. Amanda couldn't sleep. She lay on the very edge of the bed, listening to Andres breathing on the opposite side. They hadn't spoken a word since dinner. He'd watched football in the living room, she'd done the dishes and cleaned the kitchen. By the time she went to bed, he was already pretending to be asleep. The digital clock read 3:24 a.m. Amanda carefully got up, trying not to wake him, and walked to the kitchen. She turned on the small stove light, put the kettle on, and took out her phone. "Are you awake?" she texted her mother, not expecting a response. The phone buzzed almost immediately. "I'm awake, my darling. Is everything okay? Can I come over tomorrow after work? We need to talk." "Of course. I'll be waiting." Amanda set her phone aside and wrapped her hands around the cup of hot tea. Her mind buzzed with thoughts, memories chasing each other. Why hadn't she noticed earlier how Andres really felt about her mother? Or maybe she just didn't want to see it. The morning started as usual. Andres gulped his coffee, kissed her on the cheek, and rushed out the door. Not a word about the previous night, as if nothing had happened. At the office, Amanda couldn't concentrate. Numbers blurred before her eyes. She thought about her mother, her life, and how maybe she had never truly understood what Beatrice had gone through. Beatrice Mendez was born in a small town. Her father was an engineer at a local factory, her mother a nurse. A typical Latin American family of the time: work, home, stability. Beatrice was a good student, especially fond of literature and history. After graduation, she had planned to study history, but life had other plans. Her father died suddenly of a heart attack, and the family lost its main breadwinner. Her mother insisted she choose something more practical. "Why do you need history?" she'd said. "Get a degree in accounting or technology. You'll never go hungry." Beatrice obeyed and enrolled in a technical institute, majoring in production technology. There she met her future husband, Ignacio, a handsome, witty guy from another program. He won her heart at first sight. After graduation, they got married and moved to a big city, where they were both offered jobs at a textile factory. Amanda was 3 when her father didn't come home from a night shift. A week later, they found him in the river. An accident, the investigators said. He slipped on the bridge on his way home and fell. Beatrice didn't believe it, hoped until the very end it was a mistake. Ignacio didn't drink, was cautious, loved life. But she had to accept the truth and start over, alone, with a 3-year-old in her arms, in a city with no family or close friends. She had thought about going back to her mother, but her mother was barely getting by herself. So Beatrice pulled through alone. Daytime at the factory, evenings with her daughter, housework, and then, after Amanda was asleep, studying. Yes, Andres didn't know one important detail. Beatrice, while working at the factory, secretly enrolled in a part-time law degree program. She kept it hidden, her workplace wouldn't understand, her mother would have dismissed it as foolishness, and she didn't want to burden Amanda with adult problems. For years of late nights, weekends in the library, exam sessions she called business trips, and Beatrice Mendez became a certified lawyer. But the diploma stayed in a drawer, wrapped in newspaper. Why did you study if you're not using the degree? Amanda once asked after accidentally finding the diploma during cleaning. Education is never wasted, darling, Beatrice smiled. It was interesting. I learned a lot, and that makes life richer. Not everything is about money or careers. In truth, Beatrice had tried to get a job in law. She went to every firm in town, but they all said the same thing: we need someone with experience. Or worse, we don't hire women over 40. Not openly, of course, just polite rejections. But at the factory, she had a stable income and a close-knit team that felt like family. Beatrice decided that was more important than chasing prestige. When Amanda graduated from high school, Beatrice insisted she pursue a degree in economics. You should have what I didn't, a choice, she told her. With an economics degree, you can work anywhere. And if you want to do something else later, you'll still have options. Amanda agreed, though deep down, she dreamed of being a designer or artist. So she studied economics, worked as an accountant, and then met Andres. Tall, confident, from another world, a world where people talked about theater premieres, vacationed abroad, and knew grape varieties by name. He was her ticket to a new life, free from fear about the future, from budgeting every penny, from mended tights under the quiet hum of a TV. And Beatrice was happy for her daughter. This is what she dreamed of, that Amanda would live better than she had. Beatrice's door opened after the first ring, as if she had been standing behind it, waiting. The smell of fried cutlets and freshly made compote wrapped around Amanda, taking her back to childhood. Come in, Amanda, I made dinner. Beatrice hugged her and led her to the kitchen. You must be hungry after work? Amanda wanted to say she wasn't hungry, that she came to talk, but instead, she burst into tears, burying her face in her mother's shoulder. Mommy, I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm sorry for last night, for Andres, for everything. Oh, sweet girl, Beatrice stroked her hair. Why are you apologizing? You didn't say anything rude, your husband did. And we're all human. He said it in the heat of the moment. He'll regret it. Amanda pulled away, wiping her tears. He won't regret it, Mom. That's exactly how he thinks. And I don't know how to live with that. Eat first, then we'll talk, Beatrice said, seating her at the table. I made compote from those cherries you love. After dinner, they moved to the living room. The small apartment in the working-class neighborhood where Amanda had grown up seemed cozier than ever. The worn-out sofa, bookshelves filled with collected works and porcelain figurines, it all felt so familiar. Mom, I wanted to ask, Amanda hesitated, unsure how to start the conversation about the inheritance. About the money from Uncle Ricardo? Beatrice smiled, noticing the surprise on her daughter's face. Yes, I've already sorted everything. 50 million pesos, it's no joke. I had to do it right. You already received it? I thought the process would take longer. I got it last week. Remember Uncle Ricardo, my cousin? He always lived alone in that apartment downtown. I told you he was sick, cancer, late stage. Before he died, he transferred everything to me, his only living relative. Turned out he had quite a bit, the apartment, a country house, shares in some oil company. The notary calculated it all and said it totaled about 50 million pesos. I sold everything, and since it was all in my name before his death, I didn't have to wait 6 months. It all added up to 50 million. Amanda nodded. Her mother had told her the story a month ago when Ricardo had just passed away. I planned to buy a place for you and Andres, Beatrice continued, so you wouldn't have to rent. I was going to put it in both your names. But, she paused, looking away. But after last night, you changed your mind? Amanda asked softly. Not exactly, Beatrice sighed. Amanda, it's not just that your husband insulted me. It's that I saw the real him. And I realized he might hurt you in the future. She stood and took a folder from the old desk. I've decided to do something different. I donated half, 25 million pesos, to a foundation that helps children with speech development challenges. Amanda's eyebrows shot up, and Beatrice smiled. Yes, a bit ironic, isn't it? Since I'm apparently so uneducated, at least the money will help those who really need support in learning. As for the rest, I bought an apartment. She handed Amanda a property registration document, 2-bedroom, newly built, well renovated. Mom, why would you? Not for me, Beatrice interrupted. It's in my name, but it's for you, so you have somewhere to go, just in case. Just in case? Amanda frowned. You think Andres and I don't think anything, honey. I'm just being careful. I hope you and Andres live a long and happy life. But if things go wrong, you'll always have a roof over your head. Amanda said nothing. She felt a tightness in her chest. What her mother hadn't said hung in the air like an invisible cloud. She didn't believe in Amanda's marriage. So you've already decided? Amanda asked eventually. The 25 million, is that final? Yes. The donation is complete. The contract is signed. No going back, Beatrice shrugged. But don't worry, what's left is more than enough to provide for both of us for life, if we're smart about it. I'm not worried about that, Amanda said quietly. Did you do it because of Andres? Because of what he said? Beatrice looked at her for a long moment, then sighed. Not only that. You know, when you suddenly come into that much money, you start to wonder, what should I do with it? I've spent my whole life saving, cutting corners, dreaming of travel and pretty things. Then I realized, none of it matters anymore. I'm 61. I've lived the life I could. The only thing that matters now is you, your happiness, your safety. She paused, then added, yes, what your husband said hurt. But it also opened my eyes. Those kids in that foundation, no one cares about them. At least now the money will do some good. And you? I've made sure you're safe. That's what counts. Amanda wanted to protest, to say Andres isn't like that, he just lost his temper, we're happy together, but the words stuck in her throat, because deep down, she knew her mother was right. I haven't told Andres about the inheritance, she finally said. I was waiting for the right moment. And you did the right thing, Beatrice nodded. Now I think you shouldn't tell him at all. Let things stay as they are. Go home, talk to him calmly. Maybe he'll apologize, and you'll make peace. And if not? She looked meaningfully at the property deed Amanda was still holding. I love him, Mom. I know, sweetheart. And I want you to be happy. Just remember, love isn't only about butterflies in your stomach. It's about respect. Respect for you, your family, your past. They sat a long time after that, talking about small things, the weather, neighbors, a new show Beatrice had been watching, but the topic of the inheritance and Andres didn't come up again. In the hallway, as Amanda was putting on her coat, she suddenly asked, Mom, why didn't you use your law degree? You could have earned so much more. Beatrice smiled. Maybe. But you know, I felt like I belonged at the factory. Those were my people. People I understood, who understood me. I didn't have to pretend or speak with someone else's voice. And that degree helped me plenty in life, understanding documents, helping a neighbor through a divorce, standing up for myself when the building management tried to cheat us. She hugged her daughter. Maybe it's not prestigious. But I've never been ashamed of my work. And you shouldn't be ashamed of me, no matter what your husband says. I've never been ashamed of you, Mom, Amanda whispered, hugging her tightly. Never. That's good, Beatrice kissed her forehead. Now go. Andres is probably getting worried. Amanda nodded, though she knew Andres likely hadn't even noticed she was gone. Lately, he'd been working late more often, showing less and less interest in her life. Outside, the air was cool. Amanda zipped up her coat and walked toward the bus stop, feeling an odd sense of lightness, as if something that had weighed heavily on her for too long had finally let go. The thought of the apartment in her mother's name didn't worry her. On the contrary, it warmed her, like a secret ember hidden in the palm of her hand. Everything will be fine, Amanda thought. And for the first time in a long while, she believed it. She didn't yet know that her life with Andres had only months left, that his irritation was just the tip of a submerged iceberg of problems. She didn't know that the apartment her mother had bought would indeed be needed, and very soon. But something deep inside her, some sixth sense, was already preparing her for change. And to be honest, the change didn't scare her. It beckoned, like a door opening into an unknown, but strangely enticing world. She pulled out her phone. 3 missed calls from Andres and a message. Where are you? We had dinner plans with Victor and Alicia. Amanda sighed. She had completely forgotten. More of Andres's friends, pompous and self-satisfied like him. How could she forget? On my way home. We'll be there in 30 minutes, she replied and slipped the phone into her pocket. The bus arrived almost immediately. Amanda took a window seat and leaned her forehead against the cold glass. The city blurred past, bright storefronts, people in a hurry, cars stuck in evening traffic. An ordinary evening of an ordinary day, but for Amanda, the world had already begun to change. Quietly, like the first thin layer of frost on puddles. But the process had started, and it could no longer be stopped. After talking with her mother, Amanda returned home with a firm resolve to keep peace in the family. After all, everyone argues, she thought, taking a black dress from the closet for the dinner with Andres's friends. Maybe he just needs some time to realize he was wrong and to apologize. Finally, Andres said as she walked in. I already told Victor we'll be late. Get ready quickly. No question of where she'd been. No concern. Just irritation that she had disrupted his schedule. I'll be quick, Amanda replied, swallowing the lump of resentment. 5 minutes for a shower and makeup. Don't overdo the makeup, he added, adjusting his collar in the mirror. Remember last time? Alicia asked if you were going to a carnival. Amanda froze halfway to the bathroom. Andres didn't seem to realize how insulting that was, or didn't care. I remember, she said dryly and shut the door behind her. Dinner at the trendy restaurant passed in a fog. Victor, Andres's colleague, went on endlessly about his new yacht. His wife Alicia, with her flawless French manicure and icy smile, showed off a new necklace and casually asked, "Why is Amanda still working as an accountant? Why not something more creative?" She doesn't have any special talents, Andres answered for her with the same condescending smile he used when talking about her mother. But she makes a great lasagna. Right, honey? Amanda smiled and nodded, feeling an emptiness growing inside her with every minute. Who was this man beside her? When did he become like this? Or had he always been this way and she simply refused to see it? They drove home in silence. Andres focused on the road, occasionally replying to messages on his phone. At one point, Amanda noticed him smile slightly at the screen. Who's messaging you so late? She asked, trying to sound casual. Oh, he startled and quickly put the phone away. Just Sergio. Something about work. Sergio? At 11 p.m.? Amanda knew all of Andres's friends and co-workers, but there was no Sergio among them. Doubt pricked at her heart like a needle. She brushed it off. Maybe it's a new colleague, or that Sergio she saw briefly at last year's office party. No. That one was named Esteban. Whatever. But in the days that followed, Amanda noticed more and more strange things. Andres came home late more often. He sometimes smelled of unfamiliar, floral perfume. He changed his phone password and always left it face down. Suspicions grew, poisoning every moment they shared. Amanda tried to convince herself she was imagining things, that this was just anxiety after the fight about her mother. But the voice inside whispered, "Check. You deserve to know the truth." And so one evening, when Andres was once again in a meeting, she made her decision. She opened his laptop, the only device she still had access to, and checked the browser history. What she found confirmed her worst fears. A social media chat with someone named Christina. Photos of a young blonde in suggestive poses. Messages filled with flirty innuendo and plans for a romantic weekend. "My wife thinks I'm at a conference in Mendoza, so we'll have all 3 days together," Andres wrote. "Can't wait, baby. I miss our nights," Christina replied. Amanda read it all, every message, every sleazy compliment he gave that woman. With each line, her heart grew colder until it felt like ice. When Andres returned around midnight, she was waiting in the dark, sitting in a chair in the living room. "Amanda," he flicked the light on. "Why are you sitting in the dark?" "How was your meeting?" she asked, staring him straight in the eye. "Fine," he shrugged, avoiding her gaze. "Just long. I'm dead tired." "Is Christina tired too?" Andres froze. His face twisted for a split second before he regained control. "Christina? What are you talking about?" "The Christina you're planning to spend 3 days with in Mendoza while I think you're at a conference." Amanda's voice was remarkably calm. "The one who misses your nights together." "You went through my stuff," he shouted. "You were spying on me?" "I saw the messages by accident, was checking email," Amanda lied. "It doesn't matter how I found out. What matters is you're cheating." Andres didn't deny it. Instead, he attacked. "What did you expect? You're always working or at your mommy's. And when you are home, it's just your dumb soap operas. Do you even remember the last time we had sex?" 3 days ago, Amanda replied, holding back tears. "Wednesday, before your business dinner." Andres faltered but recovered quickly. "It's not about sex, it's about connection. Christina gets me. We talk about art, politics, travel. What do I talk about with you? Your factory worker mom? The neighbor on the 3rd floor?" Amanda stared at him, unrecognizing. Where was the Andres she had fallen in love with? The one who told silly jokes, warmed her hands in his coat pockets during winter walks, who called her "my little fairy." "You know what's funny?" she finally said. "I really loved you. I thought we were a family. That we'd last. But you just used me. A maid with wife benefits." "Don't be dramatic," Andres scoffed. "Yeah, I've got someone on the side. Half of men do. That doesn't mean I don't value our family. I always come home, don't I?" "Not anymore," Amanda said quietly. "I'm leaving." "What?" He laughed. "And go where? Back to your mom's and that working class dump? Sit around complaining about mean old Andres? That's none of your business." She stood and walked to the bedroom. She took out a large travel bag and began packing only what she needed. Andres stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "You're serious?" he asked at last, seeing her resolve. "Over one fling?" "Amanda, don't be stupid." "Don't call me that," she snapped. "You've lost the right." "Fine," he softened his tone. "Let's talk calmly. Sit down. I'll end things with Christina if it matters that much to you." "It doesn't anymore," Amanda zipped the bag. "It's not about Christina, it's about you. About who you are. Or always were, and I just didn't want to see it." She picked up her phone, wallet, and car keys. "I'll come back for the rest when you're not home," she said, heading for the door. "You can't just walk out," Andres blocked the door. We have a shared apartment, a shared car, a shared life. The apartment is rented, Amanda replied calmly. The lease is in your name, so you can keep it. The car was bought during our marriage with joint funds, so half of it is mine. But I won't insist on that, as long as you let me leave right now. Andres looked at her with suspicion. You've planned this all out, haven't you? Been preparing to run away? No, she shook her head. It's just, when the moment of truth comes, everything becomes very clear. He stepped aside silently, clearing the way. Amanda walked past him, feeling a strange sense of relief, as if she had finally set down a heavy burden she'd carried for far too long. You'll regret this, he called after her. You'll never amount to anything without me. Who wants a provincial little bookkeeper? Amanda didn't answer. She simply closed the door behind her and left without looking back. Beatrice wasn't surprised to see her daughter on the doorstep with a suitcase. She silently hugged her, led her into the kitchen, poured some tea, and only then asked, "What happened?" Amanda told her everything, about the messages, the fight, her decision to leave. Her mother listened without interrupting, only nodding from time to time, as if confirming what she had already suspected. "So I wasn't wrong," she said when Amanda finished. "I had a feeling it would come to this." "You weren't wrong, Mom," Amanda gave a sad smile. "Now I understand why you bought that apartment. It's like you knew." "Woman's intuition," Beatrice shrugged. "Besides, I saw the way he looked at you, not like a man who loves, but like a man who owns. There's a difference." Amanda nodded. "You know what's strange? I'm not even that upset about Christina. Yes, it stings. But what really matters is that I realized I can't live with someone who doesn't respect me, my family, my values. It's like my eyes finally opened." "So what now?" Beatrice asked. "Will you file for divorce?" "Yes," Amanda said firmly. "But I need to think it all through. And your law degree is going to come in very handy." "You can stay with me while you sort things out," Beatrice offered. "Then you can move into your apartment." "My apartment?" Amanda was surprised. "Of course. I bought it for you, remember?" The next few weeks were filled with paperwork and logistics. Amanda collected the rest of her belongings while Andres wasn't home, filed for divorce, and began the process of dividing the marital property. At first, Andres didn't believe she was serious. He called, sent apologetic messages, even showed up at Beatrice's door with flowers. But Amanda stood firm. "He hasn't changed," she told her mother. "He's just afraid of losing a convenient housekeeper and a free accountant for his business." Then a financial audit hit Andres's company. It turned out the accounting wasn't clean, there were issues with reports and unpaid taxes. He faced a hefty fine, possibly even a criminal case. In a panic, Andres took out a loan and sold the car, the very one he had promised to leave Amanda. The car had been bought during the marriage, meaning Amanda legally owned half. But Andres sold it without consulting her. That was the last straw. Amanda hired a lawyer and filed an official property dispute claim. The car sold for 1.5 million pesos, her share was 750,000. Andres soon received a letter from a notary, summoning him to resolve the matter. Amanda didn't know how he would react, but she was ready to go all the way. "He deserves it," she said, standing by the window of the new apartment she had recently moved into from her mother's place. "Not because of the affair, but because of the lies, because he thought he had the right to control my life, my feelings, my money." "Don't worry, sweetheart," Beatrice said, adjusting the kitchen curtains. "The law is on your side. And I found something out." Then she shared unexpected news. Andres's mother, Clara, the university department head, was under investigation, suspected of taking bribes from students for passing exams and thesis approvals. "How do you know that?" Amanda was surprised. "I still have some contacts at the factory," Beatrice smiled. "The shift supervisor's niece works as a secretary at the investigative committee. She told me." Amanda shook her head. "Poor Andres. That'll crush him. He always admired his mother, her status, her refinement. Don't pity him, Beatrice said gently. He wouldn't have pitied you. I'm not pitying him, Amanda turned from the window. I'm just thinking how people can be so different from what they seem. How easy it is to mistake a mask for someone's real face. She walked over to her mother and hugged her. Thank you for everything. For never pretending, for never wearing a mask. For always being there, even when I didn't realize how lucky I was to have you. Beatrice smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. That's what mothers are for, sweetheart, to love their children as they are, and protect them when needed. That night, Amanda had trouble falling asleep. She lay in her new apartment, listening to the silence, thinking how surprising life could be. Just a month ago, she had been sure she knew her future, home, husband, maybe kids. Now everything had changed. She was starting over at 32. With a broken heart, yes, but with a clear mind and the firm certainty that she'd made the right choice. I wonder how Andres is. What's he feeling right now? The thought flickered through her mind. But Amanda pushed it away. That's not my concern anymore. I have my path, he has his. And even if our roads split forever, I'm grateful to him for one thing, the lesson. Never sacrifice your principles for someone else's approval. With that thought, she finally fell asleep, for the first time in a long while, feeling truly free. Amanda's lawyer had prepared all the documents needed for court. The main issue was the car, which Andres had sold without her consent. The evidence was solid: purchase receipts, joint account statements, witness testimonies. The notary meeting was scheduled for Tuesday, June 15th. Amanda was nervous but kept it to herself. She hadn't seen Andres in almost 2 months and didn't know what to expect. When she entered the notary's office, he was already there, drawn, with dark circles under his eyes. Seeing Amanda, he forced a strained smile. You look great. This new life suits you. Thanks, she replied dryly, sitting across from him. Let's get to the point. The notary, an older man with a sharp eye, laid out the issue. Andres had sold a jointly purchased car without spousal consent. According to the law, Amanda was entitled to half its value. I sold it to pay off company debts, Andres argued. It was an emergency. The law doesn't make exceptions for that, the notary replied. Jointly acquired assets are split equally, regardless of the reason for the sale. But I paid the initial deposit from my own savings before the marriage. Do you have proof? Andres fell silent. He had no proof. The down payment had come from joint savings, money both he and Amanda had set aside together. I'd prefer to resolve this peacefully, Amanda said. I'm willing to accept monthly payments, 60,000 pesos a month over a year. Andres scoffed. And if I refuse? Then the matter goes to court, the notary said calmly. And you'll owe not just half the car's value, but court costs and possibly damages for emotional distress, if the plaintiff insists. Amanda saw him wrestle with himself. He hated losing, especially to a woman. But he had no choice. Fine, he said at last. I agree to monthly payments. Prepare the documents. Once the paperwork was signed, Andres asked Amanda to stay a moment. Can we talk privately? She hesitated, then nodded. Not long. I have things to do. They stepped outside the notary's office. Are you really ending this? He asked, looking her in the eye. 3 years of marriage, just like that? Not just like that, Amanda shook her head. You destroyed it yourself. With your lies, your contempt, your cheating. I was wrong, he said unexpectedly. About your mother. About a lot of things. I can change, Amanda. Give me a chance. She looked at him, this man who now felt like a stranger, and felt nothing. No pain, no love, not even anger. Just exhaustion and the desire to end the conversation. I'm sorry, Andres. But no. Some things, once broken, can't be fixed. And even if they could, I'm not sure I'd want to. Is there someone else? He asked suddenly. Did you meet someone? No, she almost laughed. It's just about us. Who we've become, or who we always were and refused to see. She glanced at her watch. I need to go. See you next month at the notary. Wait, he grabbed her hand. Where are you living? Can I at least know that? Why? Just. I want to imagine it, he shrugged. Amanda pulled her hand away. I have my own place now. My own. Where exactly? That's no longer your business. She turned and walked to her car, a small, used Volkswagen she had recently bought with some of the money from her mother. Not as fancy as their old car, but reliable and hers. Andres watched her walk away, making no attempt to stop her. At that moment, his phone rang. He looked at the screen and flinched. It was the investigative committee. News about his mother was getting worse. Amanda didn't know that. She got behind the wheel, turned on the radio, and pulled onto the road, thinking about what lay ahead, a new job. She had sent out several resumes, maybe design courses she'd long dreamed of, and of course, renovations in her apartment, which for now was just a place to sleep, but would soon become a true home. It's only the beginning, Amanda thought, feeling a surge of energy and a strange, almost forgotten sense of joy. Joy that life was continuing, and now she was the one deciding what that life would be. The envelope arrived early in the morning, just as Amanda was finishing breakfast. The doorbell rang. A courier, expressionless, handed her a package of documents, asked for a signature, and left, leaving her with the papers that put the final period on her relationship with Andres. The divorce certificate. She stared at the official paper for a long time, stamped and signed. 3 years of marriage condensed into dry legal language. Marriage no __, registered, dissolved, no trace of love, disappointment, or pain. Her phone buzzed on the table. Amanda glanced at the screen. It was her mom. Hi, sweetheart. Did you get the papers? Yeah, just now, Amanda replied, setting the certificate aside and sitting on the couch. It's a strange feeling, you know? Like turning a page, but not quite ready to start a new chapter. That's normal, Beatrice paused. Life's not a novel where each chapter is neatly separated from the last. Everything overlaps, but you'll be fine. I know it. How are you today? Wonderful. We have a short day at the factory, a meeting. I'm thinking of stopping by that new shopping mall near the metro. They say there's a decent sale going on. Mom, Amanda smiled into the phone, you know you don't have to work. Not with the money you have. It's not about the money, Amanda, Beatrice cut in. The factory's part of my life. My friends are there, I feel useful there. Someday I'll retire, sit in a chair, and watch soap operas, but not yet. After the call, Amanda went back to the documents. Among them was a final payment confirmation from Andres for the car. He had fulfilled the agreement, paying the full amount 6 months ahead of schedule. Amanda had heard that his business was doing better. After the tax investigation, he had somehow avoided serious charges and even launched a new project, unlike his mother Clara, who wasn't so lucky. Amanda found out about her former mother-in-law's arrest from a news article. Department head at Capital University detained for taking bribes from students, the headline read. The photo was blurry, but Amanda immediately recognized Clara's proud posture and signature chunky necklace. The investigation had been ongoing for 3 months. According to some of Andres' former colleagues, whom Amanda occasionally ran into, he had spent a fortune on lawyers for his mother, but the case was serious: video recordings, witness statements, phone call logs. And this from a woman who had always boasted of her flawless reputation, who looked down on the uncultured nouveau riche buying their degrees. Amanda remembered their first meeting. Clara lectured her all evening about the value of education and moral standards in academia. What irony, Amanda thought as she filed the documents away. The same woman who looked down on Beatrice with thinly veiled disdain and called her simple had been corrupt all along. But that was no longer Amanda's concern. She had a new life, and she tried not to look back. After the divorce, Amanda changed jobs. She became a financial analyst at a large IT company. The pay was better, the responsibilities more interesting. Her team was young and friendly, no snobs like Victor and Alicia, Andres' friends, who now felt like characters from another life. In her free time, Amanda finally fulfilled a long-held dream. She enrolled in a graphic design course. She turned out to have real talent. She had just never had the chance to develop it before. "See how everything is working out," Beatrice said as she looked through one of Amanda's design projects. "And you were scared to start over." "I wasn't scared," Amanda replied, "just didn't know I was ready for change." The apartment her mother had bought was slowly becoming a true home. Amanda renovated it, chose the furniture herself, and hung paintings she liked, not Andres' pretentious pics. One day, coming back from the store with groceries, she literally ran into her ex-husband outside a shopping mall. They stared at each other for a second, as if trying to make sense of the unexpected encounter. "Hi," Andres finally said. "How are you?" "I'm fine," Amanda nodded, noticing he looked tired and deflated. "And you?" "Also fine," he hesitated. "Hey, maybe a coffee? There's a nice cafe nearby." Amanda hesitated. Part of her wanted to say no and walk away. But another part, the part that had once loved him, was curious. "All right. But just for a bit. I have a meeting in an hour." They sat by the window in a small cafe. Andres nervously turned his cup in his hands, avoiding her gaze. "My mom's in pretrial detention," he finally said. "The case is going to court. Her lawyers say the odds are bad. There's too much evidence." "I'm sorry," Amanda said sincerely. No matter how she felt about her ex-mother-in-law, she didn't want an elderly woman to go to prison. "The worst part is, she really did it." Andres looked up at her for the first time. "She took money for exams, theses, for years. I asked her why. She had a good salary, my dad's savings, help from me. She just said, everyone does it." He paused, then added more quietly, "Remember how proud she was of her education? How she looked down on anyone she thought beneath her. And now—" "Don't blame yourself," Amanda said gently, surprising even herself as she touched his hand. "You're not responsible for her actions." "But I am," he smiled bitterly. "I'm the same. Thought I was better, smarter, more accomplished. Thought I was doing you a favor by marrying a simple girl. But really—" He didn't finish the sentence, but Amanda understood. It was she who had done him a favor all those years, enduring his arrogance, his dismissiveness, his betrayals. "That's all in the past, Andres," she said, sipping her coffee. "We both have new lives now." "You do," he shrugged. "Business is fine, but everything else, not so much. Christina left the moment she heard about my mom. Turns out she wanted a successful man with a spotless reputation and perfect connections, not the son of a potential felon. You'll find someone else." Amanda glanced at the time. "I have to go." "Sorry." "Wait," he grabbed her hand. "I just wanted to say, I was wrong about your mom. She's real. She doesn't pretend to be someone she's not. Tell her I'm sorry for everything I said back then." "I will." Amanda gently pulled her hand away. "Good luck, Andres." "And to you," he tried to smile. "You look good." "Happy." "Maybe I am happy," she said, standing up. "Goodbye." A week later, Amanda was at her mother's for dinner and told her about the encounter. "He asked me to tell you he regrets what he said," she finished, helping set the table. "And I think he really meant it. Life teaches us a lot," Beatrice said philosophically as she pulled a cabbage pie from the oven. "By the way, I saw him." "Who?" Amanda asked, confused. "Andres. He came by a couple days ago." "What?" Amanda almost dropped the plates. "Why?" To apologize, Beatrice shrugged as if it were nothing. Brought a box of chocolates. Said he was wrong and asked for forgiveness. And what did you say? I said I accepted his apology, Beatrice said as she placed the pie on the table, and wished him well. With just the wrong stress on a word. Amanda couldn't help but laugh. Mom, you're impossible. What? I couldn't miss the opportunity. Beatrice grinned. You should have seen his face. But don't worry, I wasn't too harsh. I even gave him some tea. They sat down and changed the topic. Amanda talked about her new work project, Beatrice about her plans to go to the seaside that summer, now that she could finally afford it. By the way, Amanda remembered suddenly, remember Miguel, the designer who helped with the renovation? He invited me to the theater next week. And what did you say? Beatrice looked at her attentively. I said I'd think about it, Amanda admitted, a little embarrassed. I don't know if I'm ready for a new relationship. Going to the theater isn't a relationship, her mother said gently. It's just a cultural outing. Besides, I thought he was a nice young man when he came by with the material samples. Mom, Amanda laughed, are you trying to set me up? Not at all, Beatrice said with mock innocence, cutting herself a piece of pie. Just reminding you, life goes on, and there's still plenty of good in it. They talked late into the night, reminiscing, sharing the present, and making plans for the future. When Amanda finally got up to leave, Beatrice hugged her tighter than usual. I'm proud of you, sweetheart. You're stronger than you think. The trial of Clara ended with a suspended sentence, 3 years probation, a 1 million peso fine, and a ban from teaching. Given her age and prior achievements, the judge had been lenient. But her career was irreparably destroyed. Amanda learned about it by chance, reading the news. Clara's name appeared alongside other corruption cases in education. In the photo, she looked 10 years older. Her proud posture had turned into a stoop, her signature necklaces replaced by a modest string of pearls. Amanda felt something stir inside her, not gloating, but a kind of understanding. A recognition of how fragile lives, reputations, and careers can be. How often behind arrogance and grandeur hides fear, fear of inadequacy, of losing control, of being exposed. That evening, Amanda opened an old photo album for the first time in years. There she was with Andres on their wedding day, young, happy, full of hope. Then in Cartagena, where they had their first serious argument. At a New Year's party, where Andres had introduced her to colleagues with the same pride as he would show off a new car. And there they were at Beatrice's birthday, a rare moment when Andres had agreed to visit the apartment in her working-class neighborhood. Amanda stared at that last photo. Now she saw what she hadn't before, the tension in Andres's posture, the emptiness in his eyes, the forced smile on his face. And the way Beatrice looked at him, not with disdain, but with a kind of sad understanding, as if she already knew back then that it wouldn't last. The phone buzzed, pulling Amanda out of her thoughts. A message from Miguel. Got tickets to the play you like, The House of Bernarda Alba, Friday at 7 p.m. sharp. Still on? Amanda smiled and typed back. Yes, I'd love to, thank you, and after a moment's hesitation, added a smiley face. She closed the album and walked over to the window. The city sparkled with evening lights. The sounds of traffic were muffled, like from another world. Amanda thought how strange life could be. Sometimes you have to lose something familiar to gain something truly valuable. Sometimes you have to stand on the edge of despair to realize how much stronger you are than you thought. In a few days, she was scheduled to meet Andres one last time, to collect the rest of her belongings from their old apartment. He had messaged her, saying he was planning to sell the place and move to a different area. New job, new plans, a new chapter in his life, just like hers. Amanda didn't know if Miguel would become more than just a pleasant acquaintance, didn't know how her career would unfold, or what the future held, but for the first time in a long while, she wasn't afraid of uncertainty. On the contrary, she saw it as a space of opportunity, a blank canvas on which she could paint anything. She closed the window, drew the curtains, and turned on her favorite music. Ahead of her was an evening just for herself, with a good book, a cup of herbal tea, and that warm feeling of home that no money or prestige could ever replace. The meeting with Andres was brief and businesslike. He helped her pack the last of her things, some boxes of books, a bit of clothing, photo albums, and souvenirs from their travels. "I'm sorry it turned out this way," he said once they were done. "Between us, I mean." "It's for the best," Amanda replied simply. "We each have our own path." "Yeah, I suppose," he looked at his watch. "I have to go. The buyers are coming in half an hour." They shook hands as if they were business partners wrapping up a project. No hostility, no passion, just two people whose paths had once crossed and now diverged. As Amanda unloaded the boxes from the taxi in front of her building, she saw a familiar figure. Beatrice, holding grocery bags, was walking toward her entrance. "Mom?" Amanda was surprised. "What are you doing here?" "I thought I'd drop by to help unpack," Beatrice smiled. "And I brought dinner. I knew you'd be coming back hungry." The driver unloaded the last box and drove off. Amanda and her mother carried everything upstairs, chatting cheerfully. Beatrice shared the latest news from the factory, while Amanda recounted her brief meeting with Andres. "You know what I realized," she said as they were placing books on the shelves. "The most valuable thing in life isn't social status, or a fancy job, or even money. It's being able to be yourself, and not be ashamed of it." "Spoken like a true philosopher, my girl," Beatrice nodded. "I've always known that, but I'm glad you've come to understand it too, though I wish you'd learned it a little less painfully." "It's okay, Mom," Amanda hugged her. "I'm grateful for the experience. It made me stronger." Later, after dinner and unpacking, Beatrice got ready to leave. "Stay the night," Amanda suggested. "It's late." "No, sweetheart. I have an early shift tomorrow," Beatrice shook her head. "Besides, you've got your own life now. I don't want to intrude." "You never intrude," Amanda said sincerely. "I'm so grateful to have you." It had gotten colder outside, and the wind picked up. Amanda insisted on calling her mother a taxi. "If you pass that fabric shop we visited last time, stop in," Beatrice said as she climbed into the cab. "I saw curtains that would be perfect for your bedroom." "Will do," Amanda waved as the taxi pulled away. On her way back home, she thought about how much her life had changed over the past few months. The divorce, the new job, the new apartment, new people, and most importantly, a new sense of herself, not as someone's wife or an accessory to someone else's life, but as an independent person with her own dreams, desires, and plans. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Beatrice rode in her taxi thinking about her daughter, how much she'd grown through all those hard months, how she'd learned to stand up for herself, to stay strong in the face of adversity, and to value what truly matters. "It's for the best," she thought, watching the lights of the city blur past the window. With that thought, she pulled out her phone and typed a message to Amanda. "I love you, my strong girl." Amanda, placing books on the shelf, smiled as she read it and replied, "I love you too, Mommy." Outside, the first snow had begun to fall, blanketing the city in white. Winter was beginning. A new chapter in their lives was beginning. No one knew what it would bring, but one thing was certain: whatever happened, they would handle it. Because the most important thing is to stay true to yourself and to those you love. Everything else is just detail, fading over time. And when a few weeks later Amanda happened to run into Andres on the street, she simply smiled, wished him a good day, and kept walking toward her new life, toward her real happiness. And yes, she deliberately mispronounced a word on parting. Because sometimes, a small revenge, especially a harmless one, delivered with a smile, is surprisingly sweet.
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe to the channel.